I'm literally dead inside. I'm really sorry if this video feels like a bit like a ramble. I just want to get this out of my chest without a script or anything, so I can be 100% straightforward honest with you on every single way possible. And I don't think I'm gonna probably add some direct closed captions to this because I'm not gonna do that either. Instead, I'm just gonna let the YouTube algorithm decide what subtitles are gonna be put in this fucking video. So, as you might honestly understand, no, is that I am a gambling addict. I have been a gambling addict for around years, even a couple decades or something, right? Like, it's kind of a long story, but even then, the whole effects of me gambling away my money has affected me financially and emotionally for a long, long time. And here's the thing, right? Um, the thing about gambling is that we all know it's for my fault because I keep investing my money on these sorts of things, like to keep funding this whole scam going on about gambling or anything, and just keep the ball rolling until it eventually comes crashing down at some extent. But my whole problem with gambling is not just my fault because, quite frankly, I understand that I'm keep funding these bunch of fucking bolters, right? But at the same time, it's still a scam nowadays because it feels like it's some sort of regressive tax that only, seems to work on people who are stupid enough to not know the math about that whole particular situation. It kind of feels like the lottery in some regard, right? When you like somehow think you're investing money into something, some great prize or whatever, but instead of like when lottery uses the excuse that they're usually funding some kind of charity or education or disabled people or something like that, the whole gambling scene, especially on the terms of casinos, slots, or whatever, they make you believe you're actually about to win a big fucking jackpot out of fucking nowhere. Like, that's the whole lie. It's completely straightforward, and that there's no goodwill bullshit about it. They're just telling to your face, yeah, we're fucking scamming you with with our shit, and now just so you can get full eventually about the idea of earning money out of this, which is a real shame, right? Because quite frankly, it still feels like a fucking scam, but it's a straightforward scam. The people should already know the whole depths they're getting into, the house always wins kind of shit, and yet they still do it. In all honesty, there's a bit of a problem when a lot of these casinos or whatever rely on lately on influencers like SQC or something like that to promote their gambling sites. It's especially jarring, right? Because a lot of when you see a big streamer like earning huge jackpots after spending like millions after millions of dollars into a slot machine on a gambling site, you know he's being sponsored by it and the game is already rigged because there's no other way he could easily recover all those losses from like spending this money on slot machines and like getting these huge earnings out of fucking nowhere. I don't want to get into the particular subject of blaming the whole system behind the gambling system. We all know it's a Skinnerian system. Social media kind of works like the similar way too, because quite frankly, it's the same Skinnerian system that we're all accustomed to, and like it keeps giving us dopamine hits at some regard, and it's shitty. I know it's pretty shitty if you can get my gist about it. This is the kind of place if everybody started gambling all their money away, right? This ruins. This ruins is basically the kind of place that will be if everybody started gambling at some point. Now, I don't want to get into that sort of jigamaroo of that kind of situation. What I want to get is into a more kind of positive kind of thing instead of blaming the problems I got on something else, because deep down, this is still my fault. This is still my own problem that I caused myself in some way, because not only they're coercing me into thinking I'm gonna earn big with this sort of shit, but also sort of keep financing this sort of hacks and to keep doing the same shit on other people like me. Because let's remember, there's like a bazillion people at least on the planet who are gambling addicts, and it's mainly because not only they cannot control themselves on that kind of thing, and it's their fault for keeping feeding the source system, but it's also the system still works and it's still going at this point. In a situation like this, I want you to think that like this whole story. I know it's kind of like sort of old-fashioned to think about the Stoics and like this was some sort of video from Sam Hyde or something like that, where I give like the most common sense advice possible. But at the end of the day, I just want you to think this: it's a start to be aware of the kind of situation you're causing yourself and the kind of situation you're in. It took me a frigging while to realize this until, while obviously crying to my fucking tears of fucking loads of tears about this kind of shit, rejecting any sort of help I can get from outside. And, I don't understand this kind of behavior. When someone tries to help me on something, I start having this sort of uncontrollable, unexplainable fit where I start crying like a big fucking baby. Maybe blame my neurodivergence or something. I have Asperger's syndrome, right? But like, even then, it's an absolute dog shit to think like that. That's about victimizing myself and everything. And like, that's the point, really. If you start victimizing yourself, you're only gonna achieve neutralizing your self-growth. Self-growth only starts when you start realizing about what happens to you and what you're doing to yourself. And it's not easy, right? It's not easy to realize this kind of shit unless someone explicitly tells you and you actually take the effort of accepting that sort of truth. But that's what it is. I mean, you can blame the capitalist game all you fucking want. You can easily blame the fucking problems you got on any other sort of system that that keeps you making these sort of boogeyman stories about how the system is hurting you from within. But that's not gonna help at all. What is gonna help is first realizing what you do and then just basically doing something about it. A while ago, I did a video where I had this sort of motivational speech where I was sort of telling you to basically do something about the problems you cause about yourself. And I'm going to probably reiterate on that kind of one as well, because I think it's most important to realize what we're getting ourselves into in this sort of kind of thing. I know it's easy to blame the system because the system is like keeps exploiting us, keeps driving us into poverty, keeps driving us into all sorts of bullshit that eventually will lead into us not do, keep blaming by the system, right? But the problem with the system is that it relies on the fact that you're blaming just on the system to not be able to do something about the system itself. Even fighting against such a system like capitalism takes some effort into realizing what's the problem and what you can do about it. I don't know, even if it basically takes throwing Molotov cocktails at an ADM, so maybe the Rothschilds can probably listen. But this is what basically boils down to Stoic philosophy, right? It's not just a sort of common sense advice that somehow will give you out of fucking $5 a month or something. It's basically common sense advice that will help anybody at this point when the whole system convinces you that the Stoic system doesn't fucking work. At least in some way conceivable. Everything is sort of built around the idea of giving like instant gratification. Like you look at social media these days and all about it is just trying to get this sort of instant gratification thing so your dopamine gets jacked up. And again, this is sort of the same Skinnerian system that's relied on by gambling systems or social media or literally anything, really. Consumerism be a fucking bitch. But it's kind of icky when you only have everything else but yourself to blame on it. You know, kind of weird of having this sort of Wings of Redemption kind of mentality where everything else is everything else but yourself is their fault. It's a fault of everything else but me. That sort of victim mentality that goes on in literally everyone, and that's how the system keeps building us into it, right? This shit like the far right or even leftist communities that keep blaming on everything else but themselves on the problems that they face. Like either it's some sort of the globalists or either it's like the capitalists or something. When in reality, a lot of these problems could be avoided if people realized how they're causing them to themselves and how they could solve it by themselves. The main purpose of this video is not just telling you that kind of common sense advice that anyone should probably hear, but also, you know, I practically wanted to do something about my own financial problems, my gambling addiction. In some regard, this might help me remind me of how bad the gambling system is and how I should probably avoid it. Just as some sort of like self-affirmation to stop gambling. And not just that, there's also the fact that I'm doing this just to keep up like a steady source of algorithmic value from YouTube, so I can possibly, you know, on the long term have some earnings that will help me sustain me financially in some way or another, so I don't have to always rely on gambling anyway. I mean, I don't know if this video will particularly go viral or some shit, but I'm counting on the fact that if I keep working on this thing, on and as some at least as some sort of distraction to avoid myself from gambling my money away into some fucking slot machine anywhere, you know, at least I'm counting on the idea that this is actually helping this at least distract me from the idea of gambling. And not only that, it will eventually on the long term generate me a steady source of income in a way. We have to get obviously rid of this instant gratification shit, because the only thing that helps into is that we're building a huge spike of dopamine that easily goes away instantly. It easy comes, easy goes, right? It's basically that kind of shit. We have to get rid of the instant gratification excuses. All we need to do is just do something about it, and even though it's as uncomfortable as this might be. This is already uncomfortable for myself in some way because I have to express myself deep down within my fucking soul about this, and it's pretty uncomfortable already. But still, it's more valuable than just going on and look for that instant gratification shit, which is something I hate about myself. What I hate about myself is the idea that I have to always get that instant gratification shit. Like looking for the quick fix or something that will be quick and like somehow have big. That's not gonna fucking easily happen that much. I keep making these videos because I think it's essential to like somehow build a sustainable career out of this. I spent like a lot of money on the gear and the investments that I had to do in order to keep this show running. And I know at some point that this is going to be financially and emotionally sort of, you know, profitable in some way as long as I keep doing it, because you know the results are in. Since I started doing like this kind of sort of videos or like video essays and stuff that doesn't necessarily rely on politics that much, I realized this looks like a fucking gold mine. And it's, you know, it might be slow. I know it's kind of slow at this point. I'm already nearing 500 subscribers at this point by just by having literally like a Garry's Mod video or like a video about Cecile or some shit like that. The videos that mostly work in this channel, but I know this will be good. Sometimes you just gotta sit there and have the patience to wait for the results to come in. You know, the results might be slow, but it's better than looking for the quick fix and failing so many times to get that quick fix. You know, take it as some sort like really bad drug that only gets you addicted, and the effects of the such drugs start wearing out as the more you consume it. That's what gambling is. And you gotta understand that any way you go financially help this channel by either buying the merch or becoming a goon at the goon fund, or sort of giving donations or anything like that, it will help me sustain myself financially. So not only I will be able to pay like all the bills so that are recurrent to like everything maintaining the show, or like maintaining my own life, but also basically avoiding myself from gambling, because I don't have any excuse to like get a steady source of income from anywhere else. And this video will help be a reminder of like me being able to control my impulses in such a way. I mean, it might be really bad to hear that your favorite YouTuber is a gambling addict and she may be spending your money in something that is not worth it, but at least I'm aware of it. I'm completely aware of it, and I'm trying to do something about it by making this video as some sort of like reminder, not just to myself but to everybody else. Because I know there's more people like relying on gambling that are gambling addicts, or any sort of like having any sort of bad addiction that is merely uncontrollable. And I know that you can do, like I do here myself, you can do yourself the same thing that I do to myself, and be aware and do something about it. There's a certain non-profit organizations who also help on gambling addicts. You can seek therapy equally for that kind of thing. I know a lot of people in the United States cannot afford therapy or something like that, but even anything similar, like a social worker or something that actually works from the within of the government or something like that, or something like that is easily affordable, that can be a thing. That can be a thing that can easily help you get out of a gambling addiction or something similar. And one thing I gotta tell you about this sort of thing is that don't fall for the stupid game of gambling streamers like XQC or anything. These will exploit vulnerable people like you in order to gain a profit. And that's the ugly shit about it. They will have sponsors on certain gambling sites to keep a profit out of the vulnerabilities of like neurodivergent people like me, or gambling addicts like everyone else. And that's the most icky thing about it. It just baffles my mind how the fuck do they keep getting away with this shit because of Twitch doing shit. Like, it's just fucking weird. Again, I do really apologize if this video feels like a ramble or something like that. I just wanted to get this out of my chest, in all honesty, without relying on my webcam and looking gender dysphoric as ever. But, it's something, right? What you can take away from this is that, there's that bit of stoic philosophy where you at least realizing about your own problems and what you can do about it is a start. And if you need help, don't delay. That's what I'm going to probably pull out of this. And if you need serious help, ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. So anyways, I don't know about it. I don't know what else to say about it. I guess I already made like, I don't know, 10 or 12 minutes about this. So I don't know. Check out the rest of my videos, or sort of buy my merch or something like that. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. This is just a ramble. I'm just feeling fucking stupid.